We appreciate it, Doug McElway. The national left-wing media went apoplectic over the past few days. You will recall. They were all claiming that President Trump was wrong when he said Hurricane Dorian might affect Alabama. Take a look at some of these headlines from the left-wing fake news media, as he puts it. CNN, its headline was Anatomy of a Fiasco, a detailed timeline of Trump's Alabama map meltdown. And how about this one? Trump relentlessly defends use of altered Dorian map. My gosh, this is the stuff of which, I mean, Emmy Awards are made. The Washington Post, perhaps seeking a Pulitzer, writing, "What I said was accurate. Trump stays fixated on his Alabama error as hurricane pounds the Carolinas." MSNBC with this headline, "Trump tries to bully the truth into submission." And this one, not bad, mystery marker, because he used a Sharpie, remember? Or someone did. "Trump eyed in Hurricane Dorian map cover-up." This is the stuff, folks, of absolute, well, it's not exactly a mere loss of a sense of proportion on the part of the left-wing fake news media. This is madness, what we've witnessed over the last few days. And today, here we go. The snide and snarky set may stand by. This is a heck of a spoiler for you all. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency confirming that it provided information to President Trump late last week and early this week that Dorian could, in fact, affect Alabama. And this NOAA map from last Friday clearly shows just that. That Dorian could have been on a track. These are estimates and guesstimates by our meteorologists and the federal government, and it might have an impact on Alabama. This, of course, is a lesson to the national left-wing media. It isn't the first time that this lesson has been appropriate for them, because they never win against this president, no matter how hard they try. So with this, maybe this will encapsulate the lesson for the left-wing media. You mess with the bull, you get the horn. And you got the horn. New concerns tonight from U.S. officials about the destruction Hurricane Dorian brought to the Bahamas and the possibility of Chinese foreign aid to those islands just 50 miles off our shoreline. Officials are concerned that China will be and is acting to take advantage of the assistance that the Bahamas desperately need to rebuild and to restore what has been lost because of Hurricane Dorian. One major area of concern, telecom and infrastructure. China's Huawei Marine selected in 2013 to upgrade the Bahamas fiber optic cable network, with the island's telecom wiring in need of restoration, and China seeking now to expand its influence around the hemisphere. In addition, China spent $3 billion developing and expanding a deepwater port on Grand Bahama Island, provided a loan of more than $400 million to build a port on the Bahama island of Abaco, and China has donated more than $20 million to the Bahamian government to develop projects. A former member of President Trump's National Security Council saying an expanded Chinese presence in the Bahamas could increase significantly the communist nation's intelligence gathering capabilities, perhaps even the installation of a military base. Joining us tonight, Gordon Chang, columnist, author, senior fellow at the Gatestone Institute. Gordon, thanks for being here. And first, the idea that China would seek to have significant influence and has been seeking to establish significant influence in the Bahamas and, in fact, through the Caribbean.
Yeah, we don't have to speculate, Lou. We know that Chinese investment in the Bahamas is significant. There's a $3 billion investment into
Yes, we just went through that. We just went through that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just enormous investment, and this investment is the type that probably will end up being bases for the Chinese military, especially the Navy. We could have a Chinese naval port less than 90 miles from Palm Beach. So we know the Chinese are going to put a lot of money into the Bahamas because of this disaster. And we've just got to put in much more. We've got to show them that this is the United States and this is our backyard, and we're not letting them in.
Some 16 intelligence agencies. Huawei, we have known what they're doing, that the Chinese have been carrying out espionage, as well as the outright theft of U.S. civilian technology and intellectual property. How is it that we permitted this, that the United Kingdom permitted this, that the Bahamas permitted this to occur without a response and without a superior offer to the Bahamians, at the very least, and an outright ouster of China from what is our region of influence in this hemisphere?
It's not just the Bahamas, Lou. It's all around the world, including our Five Eyes intelligence partners are probably going to go with Huawei 5G gear. The United States doesn't have a competitor to Huawei. If we are going to sponsor anybody as a competitor, it's going to be either Ericsson or Nokia. Now, Lou, there's one good story here, and that is Dorian has devastated and destroyed most of the island's telecom infrastructure, which means it's got to be rebuilt. China is obviously going to give low-cost loans for Huawei. What we should be doing is making sure that either Ericsson or Nokia is there providing the telecom infrastructure rebuild. We can do this. We can eject Huawei, but it's going to take a lot of determination on our part and a little bit of money.
What I'm getting at is that under the Obama administration, China extraordinarily increased its influence in this region, in the Western Hemisphere. I understand the global aspect of their search for dominance and as well as their quest to overcome the United States. But I'm talking about in this region where there's no ambiguity about it whatsoever. But there seems to be great ambivalence within our own government about how to deal with the exploitation of civilian initiatives, whether it's building a civilian port, deep water port, that could be used for the, as you point out, the Chinese Navy, the fiber optic cable systems that are offer really just windows to the Chinese intelligence agencies. This is mindlessness on the part of the administration of Barack Obama. And what in the world are our agencies doing right now?
Yeah, you know, you go back the previous two administrations, and actually even beyond that, they spent much more attention on the Middle East and other locations, and they neglected not only the Caribbean but also Latin America.
Well, maybe we're fortunate, Gordon, because they didn't do a crackerjack job in the Middle East either, did they? Some $6 trillion later and thousands of American lives later.
And the one thing the Trump administration has tried to do is extricate America from the Middle East. It's
doing so right now.
And it's not as important as it once was, and we should have never spent that much attention even in the first place. What we've got to do, I think, long term is make sure that we have a program for the Caribbean. The State Department has its Caribbean 2020 program, but it hasn't gotten off the ground, and also it's not funded. So, you know, we're really a dollar short and a day late here, and we can do a lot more. And the administration is actually trying to, Lou, and that's a good thing right now.
No, it's a great thing. The problem is it's got to get done, and I would only disagree with you on one aspect. We do not have a long-term strategy available to us because our short-term interests are currently being challenged, and we have to respond, and with, I think, if I may use the word, vigor, and certainly commitment. Gordon Chang, as always, great to see you, my friend.
Thanks, Lou.
Headlines today on the August jobs report, focusing on job creation. I think it fell about 30,000 jobs short. What's being overlooked in some of the national media is the fact that this Trump economy is strong. It's still booming. Nearly 158 million people employed in this country, the record number, the 21st time under President Trump that more people are working than ever before. Imagine that. The labor force participation rate held steady. Overall, the unemployment rate also remained at historical lows, 3.7%. Black unemployment rates still at the lowest level ever, 5.5%. The Hispanic unemployment rate at its lowest level ever, 4.2%. And wages continue to grow. August marking the 13th consecutive month that year-over-year wage gains were above 3%. That is not the stuff, if anyone in the business press wants to take note of recessions. 2018 hourly wage gains hadn't reached 3% since April 2009. That's a long time ago, isn't it? That's a decade ago. Tonight, the Obama administration caught once again spying on an ally. We'll tell you the latest, nation. General Jack Keane joins us, and up next, you won't believe who Montgomery County, Maryland, blames for the outrage over the surge of illegal immigrant sex crimes in their communities. We take it up with Brandon Judd here next. Montgomery County, Maryland Executive Mark Elrich calling the coverage of the arrest of a number of illegal immigrants for sex crimes since July to be baseless, illogical, and xenophobic. Acting United States Citizenship and Immigration Services Director Ken Cuccinelli is now challenging Elrich to a debate. Think of that. Posting on Twitter today, quote, "I'll defend children and crime victims. Elrich can defend rapists and murderers who shouldn't even be in this country." Cuccinelli getting that exactly right, in my opinion. A California sheriff wants immigration reform, claiming the sanctuary city policies allowed a violent illegal immigrant to go free and then later shoot one of his deputies. Merced County Sheriff's Office near Fresno says Guadalupe Lopez Herrera was in their custody in January. But because state lawmakers limited their cooperation with ICE, deputies couldn't turn him over for deportation. Sheriff Van Warnke had this to say.
Our immigration policies need to be revamped because we're going to continue to have more of this situation happen. We knew ahead of time that this guy's potential for violence was there.
Well, joining me now, the president of the National Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judd. Brandon, good to see you. The sheriff makes a point. It's a point we've heard made over and over and over in this country. Sanctuary cities. Are we ever going to get in control of those sanctuary cities?
Well, I think the answer to that is obviously yes, but it's going to take somebody that is not the typical politician. It's going to take somebody from the outside that's willing to step up and challenge the status quo. That's one of the main reasons the American public voted so heavily for President Trump. So many people flocked to the polls because they were tired of the status quo. They were tired of typical politicians that let China move into the Bahamas. They were tired of typical politicians that allow illegal aliens to cross our borders just absolutely unfettered and release them to the United States. They're tired of politicians that allow for these sanctuary cities.
Yeah, you would think, but apparently California is one of those places that will have, I don't know, they may defend the sanctuary cities to the death out there. It is peculiar to me that a state that rich and seemingly with citizens that smart can be this dumb. It's just extraordinary what they're asking their people to put up with. But I want to turn real quickly to Montgomery County.
Certainly.
Blaming the conservative media, the White House, a top immigration official, by the way, for drawing attention to a number of sexual assaults, rapes by illegal aliens, 7 illegal immigrants, all of them from Central America. And this Elrich is going nuts because the media covered it as if he wants them to cover up the consequences of these failed border policies, these failed immigration policies, and sanctuary city policies.
Yeah, normally what happens when you don't have the facts on your side, what you start doing is you start name calling. You start tossing out xenophobia. You start tossing out that the president is racist. This city councilman, he has no logical argument to what's really going on. But the fact of the matter is if he was actually willing to debate Cuccinelli, like Cuccinelli challenged him to
love the fact
he would lose miserably, which is the reason why he won't.
Yeah, he won't. And there's another matter, too. Integrity and courage. You don't talk like he did and come up against a guy like Cuccinelli.
Certainly.
It's preposterous. But the argument they possess is so preposterous that you'd be delighted if just once accidentally they would accept a challenge like Cuccinelli's. Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, Mike Lee, Brandon, questioning the president's authority to use nearly $4 billion to build the border wall. Now, Romney and Collins and Lee fancied themselves smart folks. How could smart folks not be aware that every administration in the recent era has actually had to reprogram funding and has done so, and that under a national emergency, which this president declared in February, it's absolutely essential to respond, and that is what he's doing.
Yeah, this is one of the things that is so disappointing to me, to see Republicans fighting against other Republicans instead of standing behind this administration and working with this administration to do what's right for the American public. Instead, Romney and Lee, Senators Romney and Lee, what they're doing is they're looking out for their own state rather than the well-being of the entire United States. And we've got to get behind. The Democrats, they all vote in blocks. You always see that, yet Republicans are constantly infighting, which is why it's so hard to get done. These rhinos.
Well, Romney is a bitter loser of the 2012 election for president. He hates the fact that President Trump won and keeps winning and is now a historic president, and he is a historic loser. That kind of petty envy on his part is not the stuff of character, and certainly not it appears the nation avoided a real disaster if we put another person of his character into the White House. It would have been awful. Mike Lee, he supports Senate Bill 386. He's pushing the bill to provide fairness for immigrants rather than for American workers. He wants more H-1B visas, double the amount. It is an assault on the national interest, on the American worker, our middle class, and Susan Collins, who I absolutely compliment, congratulate, and thank for standing with Justice Kavanaugh at his confirmation. But my God, when in the world is she going to wise up and follow this president?
Well, the good thing is President Trump is not going to take no for an answer. President Trump is not going to listen to the complaints of these three Republican senators. He's going to push forward. He's going to follow through with his promises, and he is going to secure the American people. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing historic drops in illegal immigration right now, and it's strictly based upon President Trump not accepting no for an answer, and he continues to push forward, and he's doing it because he cares about the American people. That's why he's doing it.
Do you think tonight it would be the appropriate time to inform those three senators, Collins and Romney and Lee, that they might look toward the judgment of the Supreme Court, which ruled that the transfers of such monies as the president is applying to the building of that wall to respond to a national emergency and to secure the border has been approved by the Supreme Court of the United States? Do you think they might have taken that into consideration before they started braying their nonsense, disloyally so? It was a rhetorical question, Brandon.
Yeah. Thank you. Because Mike Lee was a Supreme Court justice in the Utah Supreme
Was he really?
Court. He knows about that.
Then
yeah,
he must just be.
I thought
he must just be an honorary fella.
It might be his brother, but look, again, it doesn't matter because President Trump is not going to accept.
No, I'm not worried about him. No, let me be clear. The last person in this country that I worry about is the president standing fast for principle, because he is the only one I see in this country right now, in government, standing up for the American people. End, period, stop. Brendan Judd, good to see you, partner.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Good to see you. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, joining us tonight is General Jack Keane, former Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, retired four-star general, Fox Business Senior Strategic Analyst. General, great to see you.
Great to be here, Lou.
Let's start with the Obama administration spying on the Israelis. Any question about Obama's hatred of Netanyahu, perhaps of Israel itself?
Yeah, well, I think two things probably spurred that activity. You know, one is what you're alluding to here is the absolute contempt that President Obama had for the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. And I don't think we've seen anything quite like that since the State of Israel was formed, you know, in 1948. And then the second thing was at play here was Obama was pushing a deal with the Iranians, and he was obsessed with that deal, at all cost, I may add, and we've seen that play out in front of us, because it was going to be the seminal foreign policy accomplishment of his administration. And that, I think, is what was, those two things are the motivation behind us spying on the Israelis.
Is there anything that President Obama, any leader that he felt belonged in the same room with him? He seemed to have disdain for everyone but Iran. He seemed to, it's remarkable. He just didn't think anyone quite measured up to his standards, including, of course, President Trump, who he also spied upon. Angela Merkel, who was his, at least ostensibly, his ally. He's spying on her.
Well, our intelligence services, I mean, to be completely upfront here, we do gather information at times on our allies because we want to have a sense of, you know, where they're going and what they're actually up to. Secondly, though, I agree with you in terms of relationship with heads of states, other than some of the feckless European leaders, which he had very good relationships with, and they adore him. It's amazing where those relationships are and how they impacted on U.S. foreign policy. I don't believe, if you try to look at it objectively, to name one major foreign policy accomplishment of the Obama administration where the United States national security and foreign policy is better off as a result of it. I can't name a single one.
Do you find it interesting, too, that 3 U.S. Senators, Collins, Romney, and Lee, would be going after President Trump for doing precisely what other presidents have done, that is reprogram funds, supported by the Supreme Court of the United States, and go after him? These are the same folks who didn't say a word about Obama rolling back the military or the deterioration of our military under both Bush and Obama. And they come after this president? Isn't that nauseating, the leader of their own party?
Well, the president is absolutely within his rights to take appropriated money that obviously the Congress approved, and they approved that money to the Department of Defense, largely wrapped up in the national security of the United States, for the president to adjust those priorities.
The Supreme Court reaffirmed what these presidents have been doing, and specifically what this president is doing. And 3 Republicans who should be supporting him on issues of national security, including border security, including on the fight against sex trafficking, human smuggling, drug trafficking as well. I mean, it's just stunning, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt we have a sovereignty issue and a national security issue on our southern border. The president has the most information to deal with that than anybody in government in terms of where all of that information is funneled, and he's making decisions based on those priorities as he sees it. That's what he was elected for.
General Jack Keane, as always, great to have you with us. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, good talking to you, Lou.
Thanks. Look forward to seeing you again. We'd like to hear your thoughts on all of this. Share your comments. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. Up next, the radical left in Pittsburgh. Well, they're targeting Trump-supporting business for their hatred. The party of hate, finding new ways to express it. We take that up next with Mark Simone, Gina Loudon. They join me right here in New York City. Next, stay with us. Pulitzer Prize finalist author Rebecca Mackay is begging people to please stop wearing any red hat because they could be mistaken for MAGA hats. Mackay saying, quote, normal people, end quote, shouldn't wear red caps anymore because it scares people and has become what she calls a symbol of hate. Mackay should think about who's doing the hating here. More harassment from the radical left. Groups in Pittsburgh taking to social media, as is their wont, to expose and to boycott any businesses that support the President of the United States. One Facebook group says it's obtaining a list of almost 100 local businesses owned by Trump supporters, and that the group will soon make that list public. Joining us tonight to take up all of this, WOR radio personality indeed, Mark Simone, Gina Loudon, political analyst, co-chair of Women for Trump. Thank you both for being here, and great to see you both.
Great to be with you, Lou.
This business with Mackay, they're serious about this nonsense. Don't wear red hats. We're going to expose everyone who's ever voted or raised money for Donald Trump. This is a national psychosis among the left, and they are in desperate need of treatment.
Oh, no, Lou, you're wrong. This is the tolerant left. Don't forget that, right? They tell us all the time they're the tolerant ones. And yet, if you don't agree with their politics, they not only will go after you, perhaps with violence, because we're seeing that more and more.
Perhaps with.
But also against our livelihood, with every sort of tool they have to try and pull you down. Every single person in this room, I know, if you've ever said a kind thing about Donald Trump, you've been a target. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Well, this Mackay and the red hats, if she went to a Cincinnati Reds game, she'd have to leave in an ambulance. I don't know what she's going to do at Christmas when Santa shows up. God forbid there's a fire. Firemen wear red hats. So I don't know what she's going to do.
Yeah, and a lot of the people you just mentioned are very much supporters of Donald Trump.
Firemen. Yeah.
It is, to me, just extraordinary to see where this country has arrived. The left... The Board of Supervisors in San Francisco declaring the NRA to be a terrorist organization. Now, I've got to give the Washington Post credit coming out against that and saying this is a McCarthy-like response. They want to ban, they want to boycott, they want to attack, they want to absolutely overcome every single person who doesn't agree with them on any issue. We've never seen the like in this country.
Well, you know, it goes back to the French Revolution. It's the liberal mentality. Create a demon, a boogeyman for everybody to go after. Remember when Bush was in power, it was Halliburton, this awful company. Now it's the NRA, which they painted as the biggest, most dangerous lobby. It's not even a big lobby. I think it's number 24 on the list.
Meanwhile, we're watching the biggest scandal in American history. The attempted overthrow of a president of the United States by our intelligence agencies, by the FBI, by the Justice Department, and the Obama administration, most assuredly. Yeah. And how high up it went in the Obama administration, we don't yet know.
Right.
But now,
I think we know.
Well,
yeah, that's a good point.
I think right to the top.
We can't prove. And now we have an attorney general investigating the investigators. We've had an inspector. I mean, all of the investigations now are of the so-called good guys. They're the ones who have been disloyal, seditious, and trying to overthrow our president. And by the way, with the help of the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, the woman's campaign who wanted to be president of the United States, that of Hillary Clinton.
And the press, let's not forget the press, who has been complicit in the entire thing. No president has ever withstood what Donald Trump, in fact, no supporters of any president have ever withstood what you will withstand if you dare.
What are those supporters on Capitol Hill in the House of Representatives?
Well, they're leaving. A lot of the people
in the Senate. But the great risk for this country is that these rhinos are going to throw away the interests of the people who elected them, who put them there, because they have sold out to the moneyed interest, to the establishment of the left and the right, to the chambers of commerce and Business Roundtable, Wall Street. The list goes on.
You can't trust either side here. Rhinos.
That's the point.
That's why President Trump got elected.
Listen to that. Mike Lee, Susan Collins, Mitt Romney,
Paul Ryan.
But this is the true swamp training that they were also afraid of when the president was elected in the very beginning. They don't know how to function outside of the swamp.
Sure they do. You know what? This is cowardice, and it's divided loyalty, if it's loyalty at all.
Well, he's disrupted their business model.
Right.
The business model is the lobbyist calls you, they write the checks, you do whatever they need. The president just meets directly with business.
You let the Chinese do whatever they want, no matter what it costs, the trillions and trillions of dollars it's cost this country since, pick a number, 1990. The truth is that Wall Street has sold out America, corporate America has sold out America, and this president is putting a stop to it. And anyone who wants to argue with that, I am delighted to have you come on this show, and we will take it up.
And
but how sad that, think of the things, have you ever stopped to think for a moment of the things that could be accomplished if the Democrats would, and the Republicans.
I'm too busy watching what this president has accomplished.
Well,
and the focus that people take away from what he's doing, he's already a historic president. No president has ever done this.
Absolutely. He will go down in history as the best president
I want the people to focus on what the fools are not doing in the Congress and in the Senate with a GOP and an R next to their names when they should be supporting the middle class of this.
We know him, and he's the toughest guy that ever lived. And if anybody can handle this 3-year temper tantrum, it's him. And as somebody once said,
it is sedition.
Somebody once said,
it is an absolute attempt to overthrow. It's not a hoax. It's not a witch hunt. It's not a tantrum. This is serious business. This is the stuff of which wars have begun.
I used to think that sounded crazy. I don't anymore.
Well,
yeah.
You know, like Civil War kind of stuff is very scary when you think about the way that the division continues to happen in this country because of the mantra of the left and fake news.
As somebody said about the swamp, if you think they're going to just hand you your country back, you're crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to leave it. Mark Simone, thanks so much. Great to see you. Gina Loud,
always
great to see you.
With you.
Thank you so much, both of you. Check this out. A man catches a phone that was